Banking institutions are a common denominator for many throughout the developed world. Though often portrayed as powerful and imposing, banks, especially in recent times, have learned to move quickly and be approachable. They've had to adjust to consumer behavior and, of course, make the most of technologies that change at a breakneck pace. The banks of the Middle East, of course, are no different, and often they're setting the pace for other banks in the world. I'm Cody Combs, and on this episode of Business Extra, we're going to demystify the future of banking, and in particular, digital banking, with one of the Middle East's most influential financial institutions, that's Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. We'll be discussing the big trends in banking and how those trends are affecting consumers, and of course, we'll be talking about the topic that shows no sign of slowing down, artificial intelligence, in the context of digital banking. Joining me now for this episode of Business Extra, we have Fernando Plaza, the Group Chief Digital Officer with Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So in the UAE, compared with other countries, where do things stand, in your opinion, in terms of the digital banking landscape? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, so UAE is definitely, on a regional basis, UAE is a leader, definitely. And in a global, definitely UAE is up there, right? So we have fantastic innovation, fantastic talent. And we can go into detail, but definitely it's up there with the best banks.
So a lot of progress has been made, and I don't think it's debatable as a whole for the banking industry when it comes to digital banking, but there are still some barriers regardless. What are some of the challenges that still stand in front of the digital transformation for the banking industry, not just in the UAE, but as a whole, as an industry?
Definitely. So for banks, first of all, we have to face our legacy systems, right? So banks have been around for a while. Okay, we are not as lucky as some of these fintechs, new companies that actually can move very fast. So we need to actually, as we deliver change, we also need to take care of all system legacy systems that we need to actually take care of, right? So from, for example, from ADIB side, we started this journey years ago. We started using cloud. Cloud is enabling us to scale a lot faster and deliver change a lot faster, right? So we started 5 years ago. We see fantastic traction. This is one of them. Second is regulation, right? So banks, we have a very important role to play in society to enable the economy to grow, to enable so many things for the country as a whole, right? So we have to deal with anti-money laundering regulation. We have to deal with data privacy regulation. We have to deal with so many different aspects that we need to actually deliver for us to enable a safe experience for banking, right? So that's why we work very closely with the government for all of these aspects, right? And then talent. Talent is definitely always the availability of talent to actually drive these changes is very important. We are very blessed in the UAE because we are able to attract talent. UAE is positioning itself as a magnet for talent, and we see this ourselves within ADIB, right? So we have a very multicultural group of people. We have our digital factory in Abu Dhabi where we deliver change, but these are some of the challenges, right, that we need to overcome.
You touched on legacy banking, and not to get too far off topic, this is more of a statement than a question, but I saw recently where it came about that I guess some US bank ATMs were still using IBM's OS2 operating system, and somebody figured that out because one of the systems that crashed and it said OS2, and that operating system's been defunct for a long time, yet that just shows the challenge. You have all these huge trusted legacy systems, and they can't just change overnight, but that's interesting. You also touched on talent, keeping, retaining, and finding new talent. We have a lot of younger listeners that watch this. They're going to want to go into finance. They're going to want to go into banking. What are some of the skills that ADIB looks for in, to kind of hit the ground running for these younger people that might want to go into banking finance?
Definitely. So we actually we're constantly looking for talent. We're constantly looking for people, right? So data is one of them. We're growing our data function, our artificial intelligence capabilities, right? First of all, we're also looking for people who know actually both software engineering from the customer point of view, but also from the core systems point of view. Okay, we're also looking for talent around customer experience, right? It's so important. So we talk to customers a lot. We have a huge network of branches. We have today our mobile app we have around 1 million subscribers. That if you think about scale in the market, is actually pretty substantial, right? So we need to actually have people who know how to talk to customers, and actually we're also looking for people around project management, right? So we have such a huge agenda of transformation that these roles are fairly important, especially around data and artificial intelligence. It's important to actually get people early on, right? So we have very good talent coming out of university. They can see with our existing teams, they can actually grow with them, and they can help us succeed in the next stage of growth for us.
What is ADIB's AI strategy?
AI is at the heart of the next few years, right? So If we look, for example, how to embed a artificial intelligence, first of all, is for our staff, right? Our staff need to use artificial intelligence day in, day out. As an example, so we started enabling our software engineers to use artificial intelligence tools to develop code to actually build, for example, our digital banking channels. We saw a 24% increase in productivity because they don't need to do everything themselves. They can actually use this tool like GitHub, for example. We need to enable these tools for our back office, for all our colleagues. So there is no need to actually do any manual work if an algorithm is able to actually enable you to complete the task. For example, if we need to do AML, anti-money laundering, instead of having to review every single case, we can run the case through an algorithm so we can actually get to know if it's a risk for the bank or it's not a risk for the bank. And then at the end, also for our customers, right? Our customers, we need to enable these capabilities so they can get to know how can I manage my finances a lot better. Am I going to be in debt? What are the things that are good for me in terms of you have a bill coming, right? So how can I get to know in advance through a algorithmic approach that this is the best thing for me to do or not the good thing for. So we want to embed this across the staff, across our entire customer base, and every single process that we do will touch AI at some point.
I think in the UAE, there's relatively high banking penetration, but how does ADIB approach some of the lower rates of banking penetration throughout the greater Arab world?
So all the topic around financial inclusion is very important, right? So first of all, if we look into, for example, how easy it is these days to actually have a bank account. So anyone today, which actually has an Emirates ID, can open a bank account within a few minutes. Anyone, right? So you can either do face recognition, so we can do it very quickly, or you can actually do it through your Emirates ID. But to enable anyone which is actually in any segment of society to have a bank account is something that they can do immediately. For younger generation, right? That because we need to get them early on, letting them know how to manage their finances, right? So we have our Anwali proposition. Anwali is our digital bank for the younger generation, right? Where they can actually see their balances. The parents can actually top up their accounts so they can see where they are spending their money. So we can actually introduce this new generation to actually manage the finances a lot better, right? So it's becoming very, very easy these days, not only for banks, but for also other players in the market to onboard these customers, right? And the government in the UAE is making this very safe and very efficient, right? So it's either, like I said, face recognition, is it through your Emirates ID, it can be actually through the UAE Pass, which is also a fantastic tool to actually grow financial inclusion and get more people actually accessing financial services.
You spoke about facial recognition and some of the data that needs to remain secure. Everyone has a different need from a bank. I think that's safe to say. But I think most reasonable minds can agree that throughout the history of banks, the one thing that most banking consumers look for is they want to know that their money's safe. They want to know that their personal data is safe. Every survey that we see, every study that we see from various NGOs says that cybersecurity remains a big potential problem and a big concern. What is ADIB's approach to cybersecurity?
So cybersecurity is extremely important. As you say, people are very, very concerned these days about it, right? So first of all, we follow international standards in terms of encryption. Our customers are fully protected in terms of when their information is traveling through any network. We encrypt the data, we anonymize the data, and we follow international standards. We do have regular audits to ensure that actually we are enabling the safest possible option. On top of that, we rely a lot on the government. So the government services, such as we mentioned, UAE Pass, face recognition. So rather than actually do the work ourselves, we rely a lot on the government because the government actually has a fantastic digital enablement for this, right? So on top of this, the technology infrastructure that we use, we're continuously building on cloud. Cloud enables you to be a lot safer. That if you were actually to manage all the data and all the infrastructure by yourself, right? So we have a long-standing partnership with Microsoft. We use Microsoft Azure, and the security layer that we use is fully powered by Microsoft, by artificial intelligence algorithms that are able to protect from attacks. And this is something that we continuously review with our colleagues in the cybersecurity team. And again, we're very blessed because we have a very good collaboration in the market. Also, banks are talking all the time with each other and all the time with the government about what are the threats in the market, right? So there is very good collaboration between if we see something happening, any trend, either cybersecurity or anti-fraud, we discuss with other banks, and we actually are helping each other with the facility of the central bank and the government to achieve this purpose.
There's a whole generation growing up now that's sort of taking all these banking apps, I think, for granted, kind of disregarding the brick and mortar origins of banking. What do you think the future holds for some of these physical banking locations?
Clearly, customers are increasingly adopting mobile banking, right? So we see this ourselves, we see the growth. We see month on month how more transactions are coming through digital channels, right? More even access to products, right? If cards, products, accounts. Now, we still see that customers also want trust. Customers also want relationships. So we see that for more complex products or for customers who actually, because of age or because of capabilities, they don't feel confident, they still rely a lot on the human interactions. So on the branch network, on our branch managers. So there will be room for both, is what we see, that digital will continue to grow. The most day-to-day transactions, bill payments, local transfers, the things that people do on a day-to-day, we continue to see the growth. But there is room for these relationships, especially for trusted brands. Okay, ADIB is one of the largest Islamic banks in the Middle East, very trusted, and we see this into our branches, right? That people come to talk to a human, and building this relationship is something that you can not only do through a mobile app.
And that kind of segues into my next question nicely. How does ADIB define the customer experience these days? Because it used to be relatively easy. People would say, "Oh, this bank, the lines are too long," or "Oh, I don't like the banking hours." But now it's completely different. People might say, "Oh, I don't like the interface of this app. Oh, I don't like this feature's kind of buggy." How do you guys keep track of what's working and what's not working?
Yes, that's a fantastic question, right? So first of all is we talk to customers a lot, okay? So we have our digital factory in Abu Dhabi. We bring customers, we show them what we're up to, okay? We say, these are the things that we are doing, these are the things that we're planning to do. And the key is the ability to move fast, right? So first we talk to customers, and then this sort of innovation, this sort of customer centricity needs to translate into speed, right? So for example, this year so far, in the first 6 months, we have delivered 35 new capabilities, right? In the first half of the year. These are things that people were asking for, right? Either we're talking to these customers because we see them face to face, we talk to our branch employees because they're talking to customers, we talk to our contact center colleagues, and they tell us what the people are requesting. So, and then after we get this experience, we need to actually deliver an experience at the same level that people are using on a daily basis. People are using WhatsApp, people are using TikTok, people are using Instagram, right? So the ability for us to deliver a mobile banking experience that is at the same level, it needs to be crafted, it needs to be tested, right? So these are the things why we have a very strong design experience team. These are the people that are talking to our customers, showing prototypes and discussing. And between this and our ability to deliver fast is what is translating into this massive adoption, right? 1 million customers using our mobile banking app these days.
What are some of the rapid changes that you've seen in terms of the customer experience? What are some of the expectations that the customer saying, this is the most important thing, and now this, that, and the other thing is now second most important thing?
There is a number of things, right? So first of all, speed is always important. Like, how fast is the experience? You want to make a payment, you want the payment to go through very quickly, right? So the government is playing also a role on this. For example, the ANI program, where now you can send money to people instantly. It will not actually take a few hours, one day, it will reach to you instantly. So we have been part of this initiative with the government from the beginning. Then there is the ability to do everything digitally, end to end. So the digitization of, you don't need to fill any paper. You want to have a full end-to-end digital experience to the extent that is possible, right? Which is what also we're trying to implement, not only on the front, but also on the back. And lastly, we see that customers are starting to explore a lot more options beyond even financial services, right? For example, we have enabled recently Takaful insurance product, right? So customers are trusting banks to enable new capabilities and new products beyond beyond banking products. Insurance is a good example. And you see an increasing number of banks, an increasing number of customers going beyond that. Not to the extent of full delivery of these super apps that are out there these days, but definitely everything in the satellite of financial services, right? Which is also something that we see our customers demanding, and we are trying to do through new capabilities as we do on a regular basis.
We do cover a lot of topics that we hope will guide our listeners into the future, all these future-based topics. In the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think the future of digital banking entails? for the UAE, for the region, and since the region drives so much change, the world?
Absolutely. So first, you cannot talk about the future without talking about artificial intelligence, right? It's the number one thing that will drive a lot of the change and a lot of the innovations, okay, in the future. This will drive to hyper-personalization, because if you're able to actually have an experience that is personal to you, because the algorithm really gets to know every detail that is applicable to you, you will have an offer tailored for you, you will have an experience tailored for you, and this will happen probably sooner than people think, right? Open banking will be a huge trend, where actually banks will need to actually share data with other parties, other entities. This is driven by the central bank and the government, so we can have more innovation. We can have more innovation with e-commerce, with retailers, actually having a more direct connectivity with banks, right? We also jumping on this. For example, we announced a partnership with Botin. Botin is one of the largest mobile apps in the market, right? So we announced this in the sense of we will directly enable some capabilities with Botin and the other way around, right? So these are some of the things that we're planning to do. Embedded finance. Embedded finance is the ability to enable your products into the customers where the customer it is, right? So today, whenever you go to a website, a retailer, an e-commerce website, you have these buy now, pay later options, right? Because you have this ability to avail financial products outside of the bank. This is one of the key things that we see in more mature markets, and it will come here, which is you will be able to avail the products, banking products, even beyond and outside the core banking realm, outside of the mobile banking app. And definitely blockchain will also play a big role in terms of payments, use cases, and instant transactions, which is one of the key use cases beyond obviously so many other like tokenization of assets, etc.
Is there anything else about ADIB or digital banking that I'm not asking that you think goes unnoticed and you'd like our listeners to hear about?
So maybe it's probably worth highlighting how fast all of this is happening, how fast the innovation that we see in the market is happening, right? So the ability that ADIB is having and is enabling to actually cover all of these capabilities, working for the government to do face recognition, fully translating into digital journeys, access to home finance, access to a cover card, right? All of these things are very important and is the key to some of the success that ADIB has had so far, which is the ability to do these things in a fast way, okay? If you target to do this as a fintech, as a startup, it's going to be very difficult because you have to deal with legacy systems, you have to live with different processes, different regulations. Our ability to tackle these things this way has been driving part of the success that we had so far.
Fernando Plaza, Group Chief Digital Officer with Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. Thanks for coming on Business Extra.
Fantastic. A pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
That's it for this edition of the National's Business Extra podcast. This episode was produced by Doa Farid and Arthur Edison. Make sure to subscribe to Business Extra on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasting content so you can have the newest episodes as soon as they come out. I'm your Business Extra host, Cody Combs, future editor for The National. Thanks so much for listening.